why didn't I do this before? Why didn't I try this? And I never looked back, and now I'm just kind of like Sony fanboy all the way through and just went, nah, nothing else. Like, can't go back to Canon. Like, it's just night and day experience. I was like, I'm super, super happy with what I chose.
Welcome to the Your Story Studios podcast, a podcast where we talk about all things content creation. And today on the show, I'm joined by Andrew, and today we are talking about your gear. Andrew, tell us about your gear.
So at the moment, I'm using an A7 III and a Sony FX30. I only just bought the FX30, so I'm excited to kind of test that around. I only just recently used it for a shoot, but that's my current gear with cameras. With lenses, I use a lot of Sigma art lenses, usually Canon mount, because I just went from Canon to Sony and just kept the lenses anyway. So I've got a 24, a 50, and 85. I also have some kind of cheaper like alternative lenses like a Samyang 12mm and like a 7 Artisans like 7.5 fisheye lens, which are just like for fun and just a bit of mucking around just to get something a little bit different. But yeah, those are kind of my go-to gear at the moment.
Yeah, so you mentioned Canon and now you're at Sony. Why the shift?
I think it was just the environment. I noticed a lot of people kind of shifting from Canon to Sony, at least in my kind of friend group and at least in my circle. I noticed it quite a few times. I went, okay, I'm going to give it a go. Maybe I might have a look. And I went on a tour in about 2019 and my mate who was the guitarist was like, hey, can you film some stuff on my camera? And it was a A7 III. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. I've never used Sony. I'll give it a go. And then I started noticing, I was like, oh, this is really nice to use. Oh, this like the footage actually looks really good. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll just like have a think and then end up just kind of getting kind of sick of my Canon. I had a 5D Mark III at the time and kind of went, oh, the focus is going out. I'm not catching as many moments as I would want to. The colors were a bit weird at the time. I just didn't quite like what was coming out and I was getting really annoyed that I was like, is it me? Is it the camera?
It's the camera.
It was the camera, definitely. But I was like, oh, everything's just like not pitch perfect focus that I was getting to. I was getting like less than half of like my photos were out of focus and I was like, this is just really bad. I don't know if it was just the lighting or not, wouldn't be too sure. And then I just went, okay, let's do it. Let's do a lot of research. And I ended up doing a good month or two of just like looking at the cameras and kind of going, okay, well, this is going to suit me how. And then went, all right, let's just bite the bullet, traded my camera in, went and just bought the A7 III and didn't look back. It was like night and day, completely otherworldly like experience. I went from being like, okay, well, I'm just going to see how the focus is because like the focus on my Canon was a bit slow and then started using that and it was like lightning fast. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is really quick. That's nice. End up using it the first gig and I was like, oh, 99% of my shots are in focus now. Like everything is like pitch perfect. Like I had no issues. And I was like, why didn't I do this before? Why didn't I try this? And I never looked back and now I'm just kind of like Sony fanboy all the way through and just went, nah, nothing else. Like can't go back to Canon. Like it's just night and day experience. I was like, I'm super, super happy with what I chose.
Yeah, and when you first started using the Sony, were you confused by the menus?
No, I end up like, I'm usually pretty intuitive with like learning the system. So it's like, as soon as I kind of went, okay, cool, I'll just like watch a tutorial really quickly of how to set that one up if I needed to, because I needed to know the video settings because Canon didn't have peaking, didn't have log, didn't have any kind of like autofocus kind of capabilities with that. So it was a bit weird that it couldn't quite, I had autofocus, but I couldn't tell if it was in focus at all. So I kind of went, okay, let's learn this. And then I was just like, I didn't want to look back, didn't want to try something different. I just went, no, this is perfect for me. And it just worked well. Systems were so easy to use. And I just went, this is so simple. Like, I don't know why I didn't do it sooner.
Yeah. And let's focus on the lenses. So you listed them before. They're all primes, are they?
All primes.
Right.
I don't have any zooms. I used to have zooms before them. So when I first like kind of got into it, I shot like a festival with like a kit 24 to 105 lens.
F4?
Pretty sure it was like F4 or something like that. It was, yeah. I, again, didn't know anything about lenses. I just bought it because I went, oh, I need a longer lens. I didn't know anything about the apertures or anything like that. So and it was a daytime festival, so it was fine. But yeah, that was my first kind of instinct of like, okay, well, let's try some primes. My mate who does corporate now, but used to do music photography when I was starting out, he was like, hey, get this Sigma 35. It's great. And I was like, okay, cool. Tried and went, oh, this is really nice. It's really sharp. Works really well. Like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And
that's a 1.4?
It was a 1.4.
They do a 1.2, don't they?
Yeah, they do a 1.2. At the time, I don't think the 1.2 was out, but I think it was just 1.4s. So I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, they were just like primes. And I just kind of went, okay, well, primes are nice. And I just for some reason, never went into zooms. I'd always thought about it, but I'd always seen like, oh, the f-stops aren't what I need. Because if it's an f4, I can't use that properly in a kind of a gig sense. It's just too dark. I'd have to pump the ISO or pull down the shutter just to get it looking as much as I want to. But I just stuck to primes and end up going from, had a 35, I then went and bought a 50, and then I sold my 35, went and bought a 24, and then ended up buying an 85 for kind of the larger gigs where I was going to like arenas or stuff like that. I couldn't use a 50mm at Rod Laver Arena, wasn't going to work as well, so an 85 helped really nicely in that sense. But never went for zooms. I've always thought about it. I thought about a 24-70 maybe at some point just to do a bit more versatile work if I need to do some quick zooms. But again, it's a future me problem.
Yeah, fair enough. And when you're doing your edits, do you find yourself cropping in a lot to make up for the fact that you can't zoom in?
I do a bit of cropping, but also on the A7 III, there's like the Super 35 mode. So I use that to actually punch in. So I've just got a button where I just click it and it punches into Super 35, which again, lowers the quality. But again, I don't quite notice the difference. Like there doesn't seem like to be a massive difference in terms of my work. So I use that quite a lot to punch in anyway and like get versatile shots from because again, I'm using a 12mm, which you can see the outside of the lens punching into the Super 35 makes it completely disappear. So it kind of goes from a 12mm to a 24 anyway, and it looks really nice. But yeah, I usually crop a little bit in post, maybe just to get framing right. If I'm just like spraying and praying, I was like, okay, I need to like frame this a little bit better, rotate, crop it in, works fine. I don't really lose any quality, which is really, really what I need, because it's like people aren't really going to see it on phones, but I'll see it and I'll go, that kind of looks like crap. I don't like that. But yeah, I don't feel like I lose anything without feeling, I kind of experiment and turn it into my way. I don't feel like I'm losing anything if I'm not using a zoom.
Yeah. And the A7 III is a full frame camera.
Yeah.
The FX30 is the APS-C crop sensor camera.
Correct.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't mind. I've only just started, I just did a photo shoot just recently and I used like that focus. Like I was just like, I'm going to shoot the entire photo shoot with this and just see how we look. And I'm getting the photos back and they look great. Like I'm not fussed with it. It didn't hinder me at all. Using that, I kind of went, okay, well, there's the crop. I'm using an 85 and it's cropped quite a lot tighter. No issue. I didn't feel like I was hindered in any way. It was kind of like, oh, cool. I know that I don't quite need to crop in when I'm using a 24 like on my A7. So I was like, oh, well, I don't need to do this. Like this is kind of nice that I can just focus primarily on getting that shot. And then if I want to do a wider one, I just switch to the A7 and just get that little bit of variety.
Mm-hmm. And using the FX30, what are some of the things that became apparent to you just from picking it up and starting to use it that were different from using the A7 III?
It was definitely the flip out screen. A7 III doesn't have a flip out screen. It's just a tiltable screen. So it just tilts forward and back. So that's all I had. So I couldn't really see much. If I had to do like really low shots, I'd have to tilt down and then just like tilt the camera as much as I could until I saw the screen. Whereas now it's like, oh, I can flip it out. I can flip it each and every other way. I could flip it and look at myself and not be like, okay, am I in focus? Am I working? That's fine. It's a lot more intuitive, and especially with the recording, we're having like it all lights up and all there's like so many LEDs saying it's recording. The amount of times I've gone to record a clip and then realized I pressed record after the clip was meant to be like finished.
We've all done it.
We've all done it. We've all accidentally pressed record when we didn't mean to. But yeah, it's become really handy. I've really did a lot of research before I bought it. I did probably like at least like 2-3 months of just like looking at it going, okay, if I invest in this, what am I benefiting? Kind of wanting to focus more on video. I was like, I need something that will give my footage a bit of an edge. And I really wanted to kind of push it more with at least a cinema camera, because I've always been interested and been like, I need the push. I need something to go, yeah, this is the point where you grab it. And I just thought Boxing Day sales, I saw it and I was like, it's $1,000 less. I'm going to smash it and take that out. Definitely not unhappy with it. I'm definitely experimenting more. I'm doing little tests at home just to get a bit of variety to it and see what I can push it to. I know it has like dual native ISO and all that, so I can push it a bit more, just kind of seeing where there's limitations here. And again, I haven't seen anything that I've gone, nah, this sucks. Nothing at all. I'm pretty satisfied at the moment.
That's good. And is there a reason that you didn't want to go for the Big Brother FX3?
I did look at it, but it was just the price tag. It was just the price tag that really scared me. So it's like, I don't have enough work to justify the big spend. It's like, I could have done like a buy now, pay later thing. And I was like, there's just nothing that could entice me to do it. The full frame's good. But again, it's like I wasn't doing enough to kind of justify, do I need it? I've got a camera that does full frame anyway. Let's just get a crop sensor and just see how we go. And if it's like, oh, this sucks, then
upgrade later.
We upgrade later. But again, at the moment, I'm like, I'm not fussed. It's going to work for me. That's been a lot of my mentality with gear. I was always like, I'm going to use primes. I'm always going to use these art lenses. And then I end up just going, I need something different. Something's not quite hitting as the same. And that's when I went and bought the 7.5mm 7 Artisans. It was only $160 on Amazon. Chucked it in, big old fisheye, looks super nice and super wide. End up using for photo work and video work. And bands were like, this is a vibe. This looks sick. Like, this looks awesome. It's fully manual. It's just like spray and pray and hope you get it in focus. And bands use it for like more edgy stuff. But yeah, that's something that hasn't hindered me. I feel really comfortable with what I've got gear wise.
Yeah, great. And with the FX30, are you looking at getting different lenses for it, like APS-C actual lenses for it, or are you really happy with the current lenses you've got?
I'm happy with the current lenses I've got. I am looking into, because my Sigma lenses are Canon mount, because I just have never upgraded from the Canon mount wise. So they're still using an adapter, although on the 7 Artisans and the Samyang, they're both Sony mount anyway, so they just mount in. I've thought about APS-C ones. I've had a look and seen a couple that I've went, okay, well, I could sort of bank on that maybe later and give it a go. But again, I'm not fussed. I'm not kind of in the essence where I need. It's a want, not a need. I'll get to it when I get to it. Again, it's not stopping me from doing my work. It's not making it harder. I just kind of work around it.
Tell me about the adapters. Do you hate it?
Not so much anymore. I used to, because I had an adapter when I first got the A7 III from a mate. I got the A7 III, and then my mate had I feel it was like a weird old Metabones one, and it was just god awful slow. And I was like, oh, this sucks. Like, this is not going to be good.
You missed all the shots.
Missed all the shots. I was like, this is not good. This is not great. And I was like, oh, this is weird. And then I ended up getting the Sigma kind of adapter proper for it, and it was just like night and day. Made a complete difference. And I was like, oh, I should have done this months ago. I should have done this. It made such a world of difference straight away. And I was like, this is the way to go. Again, I've looked into it and gone, okay, what's more cost effective for me to either buy Sony mounted Sigma lenses or buy Sony dedicated lenses? I've thought about both, but I feel like I like the Sigmas more. I've tried some of the Sony ones, like the 24 and f35. They look good, but to me, the Sigmas are just that little bit more. I guess I'm probably more biased towards it because it's like they just look nicer. But again, it's something I can look into the future. It's nothing that I need to kind of change yet. It's like, if I can change it, I'll do it. I'll make the jump. Just like I bought the FX30, I'll just jump when I need it. If it's an absolute, like, there's no other way around this thing, I need to fix up my timing. If it's taking too long to put an adapter on and get the camera on and shoot something, it's like, all right, time to make that change and at least buy one lens and then keep the rest and then slowly upgrade the rest out.
Yeah. Side note, right now you're being recorded with the Sony 50mm f1.2, and I'm sure you're looking amazing.
Yeah, it's always glossy, isn't it?
So overall, you've never really had a problem with the Sigma adapter?
No, never had a problem. Never had an issue. It's been perfect. I've not had anything wrong with it. It just sucks to put on every now and then.
It's just an extra thing. Yeah,
it's just an extra thing. Again, it usually sticks on my A7 III anyway, so it's just mounted to that anyway with a lens cap. So it's like, it's just there, so I can just easily punt it on. It's only just when I have to kind of take it off, put it on another lens, put that on or fix it up that way. That's where it gets a little bit time consuming. But again, I know how long I can take, and I know I used to be like fast and quick and quickly change things, but now I'm like, okay, I can take time. I don't need to rush this. This is easy. I don't want to damage it for whatever reason and damage the mechanics trying to clip it on and break something somewhere else. But it's annoying, but it's not enough for me to be like, I need to get rid of it now. It's like I can work with it. It's not. I've been working with it since 2019. So it's like I'm not kind of fussed about it.
All right. So that's your camera gear. As a video producer, there's a lot of other gear that we need to have. Talk me through the other things that you have, like lighting.
Yeah, so I do have a bit of lighting. So I've got 2 Aputure lights. One is the small 60D and one's like the 100D. So I've got those for just like my main lighting. And then I've just got 2 cheapy like Godox lights just for backups, just to get some variety somewhere else if I need a light just in the background somewhere. That's usually the most of my lighting with a bunch of C-stands, gels and everything. That's my usual bread and butter, unless, the place I'm working at has a good lighting rig or something like that, I'll use that. That's my setup for most lighting. Again, it's nothing too flash. It works for what I need to. Using the app for the Amaran lights, like it works so nicely just to be able to add some bit of flare here, some strobes, or even just some static, pulsing looks really nice as well. usually that's my lighting setup. It's nothing too complicated. It's something that I can easily set up, get ready, push it down, and not have to take 20, 30 minutes to set up and get it perfect. It's like I know exactly what it does.
Yeah, and to power those lights, is it all wall power?
Yeah, it's all wall power. I do have the adapter for the 60D, which is like the power mounted one where you can use like a big old battery on it. The V-Lock one. So I haven't had a chance to like properly get it because the one that came with the box suddenly broke apart on me. So that was nice. But it's something that I'm not fussed with. I'm happy to plug it into power. It just works. And I've got clamps or stuff to like mount it to different areas and have it kind of fixated away and out of place. But yeah, they work really well. I'm pretty satisfied with what I got because I just kind of went, I need some lights after the Godox and I need something better. And I'm just splurging a bit more and getting the Aputure ones. And these are perfect. I'm not going to look back on those.
Yeah, nice. And gimbals?
I do have a Zhiyun crane gimbal. Don't use it very often because it's usually just like I have a cage with grips and I handheld a lot of my shots. Unless it really calls for it, I'll use it. But most of the time it's just handheld, tripod maybe every now and then, but not so much gimbal work these days.
Yeah, because just for context, a lot of the stuff that you're shooting, it's high energy band, music video kind of stuff. So I guess having this slow movement of a gimbal doesn't really add to it. No,
I've used it a little bit, but again, just for like a take. And it's just nice to have that little bit of splice in and go, okay, cool. That's the one little gliding shot going across the band or something like that or going back and forth. It works, but again, I don't use it very often. It just sits in my cupboard gaining dust really.
Yeah. You've just upgraded to the FX30. In the future, is there any other dream camera that you'd love to use if price wasn't an
option? I get the FX3. I'd push to that and get it. But again, that's probably where my limit is. I don't think I need to go too far too quick. It works. It's fine. But if I had unlimited money, it'd be a 24-70 lens, like G Master lens. It'd be an FX3. I'd really push to that. I wouldn't go any further than that really.
And when you're using your FX30, is it just basically the camera body and lens, or are you attaching a monitor or anything else like a V-Lock battery?
Yeah, so I haven't got any kind of V-Locks at the moment. I've got a full cage with hand grips, and I've got the monitor mount as well, and the top handle as well. So I've kind of already just built it out recently, so now it actually works for what I need. I've got the same for the A7, so it's just like the same kind of rig on both sides, so I can just flip the monitor from one to another. So that kind of works easily, but I don't need to put anything extra on it. I kind of went, okay, cool. As long as I can see the screen, I'm happy, I'm fine. Next to a monitor, I can see everything perfectly well if I need to. For handheld stuff, it's just the easiest thing for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Andrew, for sharing about your camera gear today and joining us on the Your Story Studios podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.